Welcome, everybody. It is
Far too kind.
11:02. 11:02 on Monday. Oh, now we have Megan Fletcher's note takers coming in. Monday, September 8th. Let me see what I got going on here. 11:03 Eastern. Welcome, everybody. This is oh, wow. I look very distinguished there. I like that. This is our monthly or periodic clients only call. Welcome, everybody. With us today, let's do our rundown. We have Director of Operations, Ms. Tunell, coming to us from Austin, Texas, or thereabouts, where it was 105 the other day. It's oppressive for September. We have Brother Bryan, Director of Client Relations, coming to us from another warm location in Florida. We have Avis, the newly decorated executive assistant and master of all things for those of us who can't keep anything in order. We have Mr. Fronczak, our director of compliance, keeping us all in order and in line. I see Mr. Bouchard, our ATF Liaison. And special guest today, coming to us. Where the hell are you, Owen? Where are you these days?
Boise, Idaho.
Boise, Idaho. Coming to us from Boise, Idaho. My man, longtime friend, Owen Miller from ASA. And I can't wait to hear everything you tell us about what's going on with suppressors and the NFA and the Hearing Protection Act. And I'm happy to have you here today. So, with that being said, Alexis, since you have put together this beautiful slideshow, which starts with a most handsome photoshopped picture of me, what am I supposed to talk about? What FFLGuard is seeing today? Prepare a team. Listen, what are we seeing today? I will tell you that I have a meeting Wednesday at ATF, and I will know more about where they are going and what they're doing. I've continued to establish really nice inroads with some of the hierarchy over there that are more pro-gun than anti-gun, which is nice. And actually, Mike's going to join me, right, Mr. Franzi? I'm going to get to see you. You and I went from being Bob Hope and Bing Crosby on the road every 2 weeks to now I haven't seen you in at least a month and a half. So it'd be nice to see you. But yeah, everything is still in a state of flux. A lot of changes going on over there that I'm sure Mike will get into. Who's my first? You tell me, Alexis. I used to just randomly pick people to go. Who's your next slide on there, and I'll pick that person.
It's Owen.
We're gonna go right into the special guest. I love it.
We're going right to the special guest.
I love it.
Jump
Owen,
right in.
a man who needs no introduction. Owen Miller from ASA. Thank you for joining us. We'd like to have you at least once or twice a year on a going forward basis because I'm sure your input will be valuable. I will give you the floor. Have at it, Mr. Miller.
Absolutely. Thank you. Boy, we might be passing each other in the halls on Wednesday. I'll be at ATF headquarters as well. So sounds like that must be their day of meetings this week.
Will you be there at around 6 o'clock in the afternoon?
I'm not sure what time we're going to be there. I think we're there in the morning. We're there.
Well, if you're around at 6, that's when I get in. Because I'm having a dinner date. But maybe we can have a little happy hour cocktail.
Yeah, we'll have to link up. I head out tomorrow morning for some events on Wednesday. So
okay, we'll sort it out. And anyway, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll jump into it. As Bryan said, I need no introduction. That's not entirely true. I'm sure a lot of you on the call may not know who I am. So I'll give a little bit of history. And Alexis, how much time do I have just so I keep it in?
I'd say, what do you think, Chris? 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. I will try and limit it to that. As Chris and Bryan said, my name is Owen Miller. I'm the vice president for the American Suppressor Association. I've been here about coming up on 10 years now. And then prior to that, and where I met Chris and Bryan and even Alexis, is my time. I spent about 10 years with Gemtech, the silencer manufacturer based here in Boise, Idaho. before they were acquired by Smith & Wesson. And so that was my introduction into the suppressor world, but I've been doing this for a couple of decades now, and was a happy suppressor owner prior to that. So some might say this is a hobby gone terribly wrong, that I've ended up in the industry. And I bought my first suppressor, about 2000 or 2001. And we'll get into some numbers, but as many people know, the suppressor industry in the NFA world was quite small back then. The first 70 or so years of the NFA, it was pretty niche. It was pretty, you had to know a guy who knew a guy. And now it's become much more mainstream. So to talk a little bit, probably the big elephant in the room, I'm sure everybody kind of wants to know the background and what's happening in the NFA here in the next couple of months. So as many of you may be aware, the tax on the transfer and making tax on many NFA items, including suppressors, short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, and any other weapons, will be dropping to $0 come January 1st as part of the president's One Big Beautiful Bill. That was something that we were incredibly active in legislating for. We worked to put together a coalition of pro-Second Amendment groups, ourselves, NRA, Second Amendment Foundation, FPC, a number of organizations to kind of bring everyone together, get on the same page. This was a combination of several other bills that we and other groups had been working on for many years, namely the Hearing Protection Act. That was kind of our baby that we helped draft back in 2015. It's been an active bill in Congress ever since, so for the last 10 years. And the goal with Hearing Protection Act was to ultimately remove suppressors from the NFA. That piece was on the table during the negotiations of the One Big Beautiful Bill. As many know, the parliamentarian who is kind of the arbiter of Senate rules, she ruled against that portion of inclusion in the One Big Beautiful Bill. But what we ended up with was kind of the first chink in the armor of the NFA in 91 years, which is reducing that transfer tax from 200 down to 0. That has led way to lawsuits that we and other groups have filed challenging the validity of the NFA. As many know, the NFA is a taxing scheme. It's part of the Internal Revenue Code. And now that there is no tax, that really calls into question whether or not the NFA, at least with regards to suppressors, can stand on its own. There's been Supreme Court cases all the way back to 1937 that upheld the NFA's registration piece as a way to confirm that people have paid the tax. And now the tax is going away. That calls into question whether or not the registration scheme can stand on its own. So we'll see. That remains to be seen in the courts. There's a lot of Pro 2A and NFA related cases that are working their way through the courts. Our organization has filed suit in several states to challenge state level bans on suppressor ownership. So a lot of moving parts right now. The NFA is really kind of coming into its own in terms of the Second Amendment community and developing good court cases surrounding it to get to a point to challenge it. So to give you an idea of kind of where we've come numbers wise, as I mentioned, I bought my first suppressor somewhere in the 2000 or 2001 timeframe. So at that time in the NFA registry, there were about 85,000 suppressors total. So from 1934 all the way to the year 2000, 85,000 suppressors had been registered. As of January this year, we stand at a little over 4.4 million. And by the end of this year, I imagine we'll be getting pretty close to the 5 million mark if we haven't passed it already. in terms of suppressors registered. So we've seen over the last 10 or so years kind of this hockey stick growth curve in terms of popularity of suppressors. And that is in large part to the work that we've done in tandem with our sponsors and partners to grow the popularity and the interest in suppressors. It also has some to do with the fact that $200 just isn't what it was, even 10 years ago. You think about that $200 tax in 1934, that was incredibly prohibitive. And that was really Congress's intent with the NFA, was to prohibit business in these items by levying that $200 tax. And as inflation has slowly chipped away at that $200, it's become much less of a barrier to entry now. It's more of a nuisance. And by the way, for those that may not know, that $200 does not go to the ATF. That goes to the General Treasury. So some Congress critter is probably buying toilet paper for their office with that money. But that money just goes into the General Treasury Fund. And so now that we know how many suppressors there are kind of out there in the world, or at least in the NFA, to give you an idea of how many per year are moving, we have seen a dramatic increase in the last year and a half or so because of the reduction in transfer times. So again, when I bought my first suppressor back in 2001, it took 14 months or so to get an approval.
Yeah, 46 yards touchdown run.
Is that a question? No. So when I bought my first suppressor, it took about 14 months. It was that way long before I bought my first. It was that way for a long time afterwards, up until about 2023. The average was 9 to 14 months. In early 2024, through some of the work we did with Congress and some of the appropriators, they put pressure on ATF to bring those transfer times down. And they had some personnel changes, and they had some new folks that came in and really looked at the processes that the NFA division was using to approve those forms. And almost overnight, those transfer times began to fall and got really fast, particularly for individuals that were submitting Form 4 applications. We started getting reports in late January, early February of 2024 that people were seeing approvals in a matter of days, and in some cases even hours. And so we started talking with ATF, and they kind of gave us a behind the scenes look at here's the things they were changing. A lot of it had to do with the FBI NICS background checks, and how they were handling those and at what point in the process they were handling those. And then it just became a matter of processing and approving forms when the background checks came back approved. And so throughout 2024 and into 2025 now, the transfer times have remained low. I mean, measured in a matter of days. And that helped double the industry essentially overnight. So 2024 saw a 91% increase in the volume of Form 4s. They went from about 450,000 up to about 780,000 Form 4 applications submitted to ATF. 2025 seems to be no different. We're on track to do the same number of forms. About 95% of all of the Form 4 applications that ATF receives are for suppressors. So short barrel rifles make up another small percentage, maybe 3 to 4%, and then short barrel shotguns and machine guns, transferable machine guns, make up the remaining percent or two. So by far and away, the volume and the amount and what the NFA division is processing is suppressors. That is the largest component of NFA transfers these days. And again, we're looking at somewhere around 750,000 forms submitted this year. So pretty exciting. And that is then spread across, with the tax going to $0, it still remains in the NFA. They'll still require Form 4s, and you'll still require an SOT to deal in those items. And so we actually have seen a slight decrease in the last few years of the number of SOTs. So the market is still strong for these items, very strong, and yet there's fewer people selling them. So I think it's a huge market opportunity. If you're a dealer, if you're an FFL and you don't have an SOT, you're not selling suppressors. I don't know, it's kind of akin to 20 years ago that you were a dealer that didn't sell optics and other accessories for firearms. There's a huge market for it. Good margins still, a lot of consumer interest, and it's a way to differentiate yourself from your competition, locally, to be selling suppressors. And, the FFLGuard folks do a great job they've got fantastic resources to help you with the compliance components related to NFA. They're not incredibly difficult. They're not significantly more complex than dealing in traditional firearms. There's just a few nuances there in terms of the paperwork, and the FFLGuard folks, again, they do a great job of helping you, remain compliant and work in that space. So. Chris, you're on mute.
Thanks, dude. So it
We
seemed
got
like
a question.
a good space to jump in. We have an NFA yearly service plan that if our clients have an SOT or they're looking to get an SOT and get into the business, so they are in the business of NFA items or they're looking to get in the business of NFA items, we charge our clients an extra $9.95 a year to give them access to our NFA library, as well as give them the dedicated defense fund should something go haywire related to your NFA items, because that's not normally covered by our services and our scope of services. So that is the program that you're speaking of. If someone could do me a favor and read whatever the question is, I can't focus with my glasses. So somebody read.
It says a significant player in the silencer space. Well, we've heard, and good to see you, Owen, that a significant player in the silencer space will be funding and filing a lawsuit to remove silencers from NFA. Are the ASA and their sponsors confident that they could succeed?
That's a great question. Looking into my crystal ball, the courts have been so far mixed on suppressors. That body of law is kind of being crafted right now as we speak in various district courts. There was a significant case recently out of the Fifth Circuit, the U.S. versus Peterson, an FFL without an SOT who was making and selling suppressors outside the purview of the NFA. Those criminal cases always make challenging plaintiffs because the facts are just difficult. And again, I'm not a lawyer, so this isn't legal advice. That's Chris's department. But there's a huge body of work, and there's a huge number of pending cases that are sort of developing this law as we speak. As to the challenging the NFA, yes, there are two suits that have been filed. GOA and Silencer Shop together funded and filed a lawsuit in Texas just within the last month following passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. ASA, along with Silencer Shop and another group of organizations, NRA, Second Amendment Foundation, and FPC, filed a suit in Missouri in the 8th Circuit, if I recall correctly, and we are also challenging the registration requirements of the NFA now that the tax has been dropped to zero. I don't know of any other cases, although part of our strategy will be to file multiple suits, likely in multiple federal districts, so that we can hopefully bring this up to the Supreme Court eventually. As far as our, are we confident that we'll succeed? We believe we have a good argument. We have a fantastic law firm that has helped us on a number of our state suits. That is one of the preeminent Second Amendment litigators. And they've argued in front of the Supreme Court in the past and won. So we believe we have good arguments. We'll see how the courts take those arguments and draft their opinions. In the Peterson case in the Fifth Circuit, it was an interesting outcome. They ruled on the case. The Department of Justice stepped in and made some arguments in support of the court. We reached out to some colleagues in the DOJ in DC, and they kind of took a fresh look at suppressors. They filed some briefs in support of suppressors, that suppressors should be protected by the Second Amendment. And the court came back. Unfortunately, they ruled against Mr. Peterson, but they did acknowledge those Second Amendment protections for suppressors. So that was a huge step, kind of a turning point in terms of the United States government's position on suppressors, and arguing that they are protected by the Second Amendment. So we'll see how the courts now rule in terms of suppressor cases and their Second Amendment protections.
Awesome. And I see that there's another question. I just don't know what the hell it says. So, Bryan, you want to read that one out for Owen?
Looks like one says, here in Michigan, suppressors are illegal without the NFA registration. Is something being addressed in Michigan regarding?
Yeah, we're, that is all, of course, predicated on whether or not we're successful in the courts and in removing suppressors from the NFA. And that's, that is a multi-year process. Just on Friday, we got a ruling in our Illinois case challenging their state level ban of suppressors. That was a 2-year court process just to get to this point. And now we'll enter the appeals phase. But to answer your question, yes, we are aware of a number of states that have within their state laws references to suppressors as part of the NFA. And there's a host of different language that are in those state laws. Some just say, owned in accordance with federal law. Some states are just silent on suppressors, and so it defers to federal law. Some have recently changed that. For instance, Arizona in the last couple of years removed suppressors from their dangerous weapons code so that it just defers to state law. Some make specific references to the National Firearms Act or to the registration requirements of the NFRTR, the National Firearms Registration and Transfer Record, which is the registration portion of the NFA. And so we have a list of those states, and we're starting to put together strategy on how we're going to tackle each of those state laws. But that's something as legislative sessions fire up for, generally next year in January, February, we'll start tackling those states. Some of them will be tough. Places like Washington, Colorado, others like Montana will be, a much easier lift. And so some of these will require us to work with legislators to hopefully change state law. Some of them may be working with attorney generals to get favorable opinions within those states as to what those statutes mean. Some of them, we may work with DOJ to try and develop a national strategy of how they can address that. But yes, we are aware of a number of states. And so currently with the NFA remaining and just the tax dropping to zero, that should not affect any of those states yet. But further down the road, several years from now, if we're successful in the courts, we want to have addressed these before we get to that point.
So I see that Alexis has posted Owen's ASA link in the chat box. If anyone has any additional questions for Owen, we'll try and field them at the end of our call. These calls are routinely an hour, so I want to make sure I get everybody in. And if we don't field every question, you can certainly ask us to ask Owen or ask Owen directly. But at the end of the day, Owen, I'm so happy you took the time out to join us. I hope we can pencil you in for 6 months from now to see any progress that we've made. And I appreciate everything you've done for the industry, and I appreciate your friendship. We've been, like I said, friends for a long time. So this is cool to have you part of the program, man. Yeah,
thank you so much. I'll make one last plug that for those dealers on the call, if you feel compelled to support our work, you can join the ASA, become a dealer member, and support our work by being a dealer member. You'll get a listing on our dealer map so that people can help find you and know that you sell suppressors and know that you support ASA, and we appreciate it. So thanks so much, Chris and team.
And I'll let Bryan talk about the FFLGuard NFA yearly service plan. If you have an SOT, you really should be paying us for it, because that's more paperwork and more things, so hence more risk responsibility for us. And if you're looking to get into the market, we will walk you through it step by step. I'll let Bryan speak to that, but I'm going to pivot right now to my man, Mike Bouchard. Talk to us, Mike.
Morning, everybody. Had a good conversation with ATF. There's new people in some of the leadership positions, particularly in the regulatory area. They agreed they're going to give us a meeting at SHOT Show, and we're going to provide them feedback on some of the things that we're seeing. And they've asked us for some specific information once the 4473 comes out for comment, as well as some of the other regulations and forms. They'd like to hear from us and our clients about some specific things that they could change to make it much easier for the end users. So that's one of the advantages of your membership with FFLGuard, is you're going to get a direct voice with your own concerns and requests into ATF. The new 4473 is going to be 2 pages front and back, so really 4 sides to complete. They expect it'll be simplified, and it'll be sections where they expect the buyer will fill out one section, then the dealer takes over the rest of the process. So they expect that, as well as the new regs, to come out in early November for comment. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. One of the things they're trying to do with all these e-forms, particularly the 4473 and some of the others, is that it can auto-populate things. So if you scan your license, it'll auto-populate those sections in the forms to speed things up. If they get the budget they hope for, they'll try and get more of the e-forms updated, but that's we're still waiting to hear back on that. The White House, some of the people in the White House are still pushing for a merger with DEA. The House budget considered the merger. The Senate budget did not. So there's still no budget reconciliation between the House and Senate marks. They're off about 25%. October 1 is quickly approaching, so if the government can't come up with a budget, they'll likely just do a continuing resolution, which means ATF and the others will just get the same budget they had in fiscal year 25. And that happens to be what the Senate mark was. Just in 26, get what you had in 25. So ATF won't be in as bad a shape if that happens. They're in the process now of educating the special agents in charge, DIOs, supervisors, and field staff on some of the upcoming changes, so that they're prepared to deal with questions and issues when those things do come out. If they get the budget they hope for, they're going to plan on doing more FFL education seminars, particularly as all these regulations, new regulations and e-forms roll out. And then finally, the SHOT Show Town Hall, for any of you who have gone to them in the past, it's going to be different this year rather than a dog and pony show. The same thing you hear every year. The Deputy Director and Chief Counsel will each do short presentations, and then they'll do a question and answer period. ATF is in the process of coming up with a format that they can get this out to people ahead of time so that they can get all the questions in before the session starts and they can answer everything the most. They'll have to prioritize for time's sake about what the most important things are, but they will get answers to people as quickly as they can. As far as the enforcement actions, a lot of people have been diverted to immigrations. Most of the people are still dealing with, violent crime, gun trafficking, that type of thing. So everything is rolling along. Morale is as good as it could be in the government when you don't know if you're going to have budgets within the next fiscal year. So, pending any questions, that's all I've got.
So, Mike, let me ping a couple things off of you before we pivot to Franzi. We've been afforded more time at the SHOT Show in our meetings, I understand from you, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so instead of them trying to shuffle us out quickly, we are now having a bigger voice, which I appreciate that. And thank you for whatever work you've done to make that happen. I also want to remind people that you mentioned about SACs being trained, right? So there's 26 different kingdoms in the game of ATF Thrones, right? And in Westeros or in wherever we may be at the time, River Run, trying to think of some other King's Landing, wherever we may be in the ATF fiefdoms, ultimately the SAC, the special agent in charge, is the one who makes the final decisions in that field office. And people often think that the director, the deputy assistant director for field operations, industry ops, is the one that makes that decision. And there was a time where he was empowered to do so, but in reality, it's always been the SACs that have the final say. So I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you feel or do you think that the SACs are being re-educated to the fact that they can't just punt on regulatory decisions made in their field divisions? Or like what's the interplay going on between the DAD of IO DAD and the SACs?
Yeah, it's been a big change. I know when I was a SAC, I was guilty of not being as involved with the in the regulatory side as I should have been. And since I've been working with FFLGuard for 15 plus years, we've had numerous cases where we've gone back to ATF to say, look, we don't think your SAC your SAC is really paying close enough attention to this kind of stuff. This one's going to hurt you unless you guys start paying close attention. And now over the last 2 years, they've taken our advice at the SAC conferences. They're getting them more involved. New agents, when they come on board, they have part of their training is they have to go out on an inspection. So across the agency, they're all getting better trained because they're all being held more accountable. And every administration that comes in wants to do things differently. So it's important for the people who are in charge to make sure they stay on top of things and understand the intricacies of what gets involved in a revocation. And the interaction with the DAD from headquarters is, they're in an advisory role. Chrissy Carlson's now an industry rep. It's a different scenario now where, we can go directly to her and say, hey, look, this one's it's not going to go well for you guys, and here's what we think. You may want to reconsider some things. So those doors have been open, so we can get a lot more play out of those things and try and head things off before it gets hopefully to a hearing or beyond that.
Well, I can honestly say that the one thing I am proud of over all the years that we've been together is that we pretty much established it's not going to go well for them if we're involved. So that's a nice reputation to have, I guess. A collegiate one, but you know, they still know if we're there, we know that whoever we are representing deserves to have their license. And I can't believe it's been 15 years since we've had that dinner at Rothman's Steakhouse on 58th.
Yeah.
Jesus, man, time flies. Okay, so thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Let's pivot over to my other former ATFer, my man, Michael Fronczak. What you got for us, Mike?
Thank you. Thank you. A few things. Going to talk a little bit electronic records and a couple other things that are still burning my butt because we have some clients who just aren't listening to us, or they're not on this webinar, or they're not reading Alexis's Friday e-blast. So, and one of those things that just burns my butt is when we have an integrated suppressor in a GCA firearm. We are still having multiple issues with FFLs who are not doing the separate background check for the GCA firearm. They're checking the NFA box for the suppressor, but not doing the NICS check for the GCA firearm, usually a rifle. Hey, a little thing popped up there. It's pretty cool. But we've got to get that thing. I know it's an issue that's probably come out, and I've talked about this a few times. Probably the last couple of years, we've been seeing this with our clients, and just all of a sudden been popping up. Never seen that prior, but now it has been. But we got to be conscious of these firearms, and probably need to talk with your all your employees and make sure they understand what they have to do when you have two firearms listed on that 4473. One is the suppressor and one is the rifle that we need to do. You're going to check for the suppressor, but you got to do the NICS background check on the GCA. So that is critical. Other thing that burns my butt is an electronic record, and we're still seeing this, is the electronic records provider notifies you of a multiple sale when that occurs. They do not send that multiple sale to ATF. Bryan shaking his head, he knows this. We see it all the time. You have to go in, and the FFL needs to send that multiple sale electronically to ATF. The provider does not provide that service to you. No provider does. That's your job to do. And we continuously see it. Some FFLs haven't submitted it for years, 1 or 2 years, 6 months, whatever it is, but you've got to do that. And it has to be done that same evening, no later than that evening, the same day. That has to be, those multiple sales need to be reported to ATF. A couple other things have come up. One was, it's interesting, and I think I'm just going to mention this to everybody. I don't know if we have any Nevada FFLs on here. But recently we've been notified by one of our clients that as of, I think it was August 24th, I think it is. Let me look. Yes, August 24th, the state of Nevada background check system was stopped because the state had a ransomware attack that affected all electronic records in the state. So they stopped. They put a stop to all the background checks for firearms. So since that date, state of Nevada FFLs have been unable to do a NICS background check. They are a point of contact state for the FBI. So that's crucial. The FBI will not pick up that slack. I confirmed that last week with FBI NICS. They will not do that. That is the state of Nevada's job. So unfortunately, if your state, just FYI, if your state, this has been happening over the last 4 or 5 years, you see some ransomware attacks with different state or federal even databases. But if your state has it and they stop electronic records being submitted, unfortunately, you're SOL, and the NICS cannot do anything for you on this situation. So you may have to contact your local, your congressman or senator and voice your opinion on that. But unfortunately, there's nothing you can do. Couple other items. I've seen is make sure when ATF comes to conduct your inspection, that you know how to download whatever records your service provider had. If you're electronic records, you know how to download those so ATF can utilize them for your inspection. Don't keep giving them different types of documents, different type of electronic records that could get you into more trouble than not. Make sure you understand where to go with your electronic system to download the inventory, the 4473s, your A&D book. So that's all you're giving them. And that's for a specific period of time, whatever they say their period of inspection is for, it's just for that period. So make sure you understand that. If you don't, if you haven't looked into that, make sure you contact your electronic service provider this week to determine how you can do those, how you can download those records for the ATF inspection. Last thing, a couple more things. No, one more thing, sorry, is we're now with the Biden administration over, Trump administration in, we're seeing more warning conferences by ATF, which under the Biden administration might have put you in a notice of revocation. Now it puts you into a warning conference category. When you get into a warning conference category, I will sit down and go over those violations with you, your responses prior to going to the warning conference, so you understand. When ATF sends you a warning conference letter, it says in that letter that they recommend that you send that you bring with you a written document that explains how the violations that were cited during the inspection will not happen again. And my answer to everybody who asked that question, can you help me write this letter up for ATF? And I say, no, you're not taking anything written with you. All your answers will be verbal, because you're just going to regurgitate what you did during your closing conference, pretty much, unless things have changed, if you found some inventory, things like that. But you will not send anything additional with you in written documentation to ATF for the warning conference, because that could be used against you later if you have compliance issues. So that's a key element for warning conferences.
So Mike, a reminder to everyone, part of your yearly fee is you get access to me to come to your warning conference, which I'm happy to attend. All you need to do is get me there. You don't have to pay any additional fees for me to be there. And I will tell you, I am a good time to have at lunch or in a meeting. They love when I come, the ATF. They're like, oh, Jesus, let's get this over with quickly. So take advantage of that. I'm happy to travel to you. You don't have to pay one dime more in fees. You just have to pay to get me there. And that's not a big deal. Sometimes I fly in and out the same day. Don't even need to stay over, but I will prep you. I will hang out with you. You pick my brain all day. We can talk about compliance. We can talk about, baseball, football season. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'll be there. So keep that in mind. The other thing I wanted to point out, Mike, while you had the floor was, since we've been doing this for as long as we have, one of the things that we as a group have seen, and this, I guess, Mike, you started with us right before the Biden administration. You took over for Jim. So you've been with us for 4+ years. Alexis, you came in a little after that. Bryan, you were around before that. So was Avis and Mike. And what I want to just remind everybody is Trump's in office. And what I saw last time is people went to sleep at the switch. People went to sleep at the switch. And when Biden took over, because just like the sales cycle in the firearms administration, everything is cyclical. When the new guy comes into office, those people that fell asleep at the switch because, oh, it's okay, Trump's here now, we're safe. Yeah, you are the ones who really take it the hardest in the next administration. Don't do that. Stay on your toes. Stay vigilant. With that being said, staying on your toes, I don't know how that's a segue to Bryan, but it is for right now. Brother Bryan, always good to see. As you and I were speaking of the other day, the only guy in this world with the same exact DNA as me.
Scary.
At least we think. I don't, UPS guy,
Well,
I don't think, yeah, well, either way. What's up, dude?
Okay, so I'll be short and sweet for everyone. First, I'll just start off with the NFA yearly service plan, as Chris mentioned before. Remember, folks, we're starting to move into a period where, as Owen mentioned, suppressor sales are skyrocketing, and now we're getting rid of that $200 fee. There's going to be more suppressors around. If you're not dealing in suppressors and you want to deal in suppressors, we're more than happy to help you there. That's what our NFA service plan is for. Actually, and if anything, all NFA related. It is an additional service package to add on, but I can tell you that just like you use the help desk now for your GCA items, there's an NFA library, there's access to NFA professionals. And so you know that when January does come around, if you are an FFLGuard, if you're a member of FFLGuard and you have an SOT, but you don't have the NFA yearly service plan, we are unable to answer any additional questions. That brings you to a different level of risk. And you will need the NFA yearly service plan if you have an SOT, or even if you're looking to get an SOT, we can help you do that. Real quick on my things, we're doing a lot of updates in our files. We are coming up on Q4, everyone, and before you know it, SHOT will be here. We're trying to make sure that everybody's files are up to date. We have everybody's current FFLs. Everyone knows how to use our help desk. And if you don't know how to use the help desk, or if you're not sure if you're receiving your ticket responses from the help desk, you could always email helpdesk@fflguard.com. A ticket will automatically open for you, and then we can show you through. That's another good way that if you want the any additional service plan, you could open up a ticket, helpdesk@fflguard.com, or directly through the client's only website and say, I'd like additional information on the NFA yearly service plan. So while we're doing these file updates, which we do a lot, you're going to be receiving emails, phone calls, but this time they're going to be from me. And that means that we've been trying to get in touch with you. We haven't been able to get in touch with you. So it's been escalated up to me to make sure that your file is complete. And as my brother and everybody else who works with me, or anybody who else knows me, can tell you, I'm very annoying. I'm going to annoy you until we get the information that we need. And I have no problem with that. I'm from New Jersey. We're just annoying people. We're good at it. So I'd like to make sure that we have all of your info up to date. Also, we've been mentioning here and there about virtual e-inspections. They can be performed. Say you don't have that couple $1,000s to come out of pocket to do a deep dive at your shop. I can do a virtual e-inspection, especially if you're on systems, especially fastbound. If you're on fastbound, let's make it happen. Let me go through your books. Let me go, do an X-ray of your 4473s. Look at 100 or so 4473s in your digital storage, and it's a very, very, very small fee compared to having us on site to dive deep. Normally, we can take an X-ray and triage what's going on and assist you in making your books and records better. And then SHOT Show coordination, folks. I believe Alexis has been shooting out emails, trying to get everybody's, trying to get the feel on everyone who, if you're going, letting you know what booth we're going to be in, letting you know that my brother and all of the members of the team can be available for meetings. So please let us know if you want to meet with us at SHOT. We're starting to book now because, books up quick. And like I said, before you know it, it's already pumpkin spice season, everyone. Next thing you know, it's Halloween, then it's Thanksgiving, then it's Christmas, then it's New Year's, then it's SHOT, and my 50th birthday. So I'll expect to see all of you that are coming to SHOT, coming to our big pizza party at SHOT on Wednesday, the 21st. If you've been there before, we do this every year. Mike Bouchard and I celebrate a birthday one day after the other. And it's a big one for me this year, so I'd really like to see everybody come on out on January 21st. Other than that, just critical reminders. You make sure you're notifying us if you're being inspected. Every time you do an inventory, every time you get a new FFL, please let us know. If you're changing RPs on your licenses, we need to keep all that information in the system so that we can stay current with what's going on in your shop, and that helps my brother represent you better. And we also would like to know your current platform. Are you on Fastbound, or are you on Axis or Coreware or any of those other systems? We need to know that. So that's it, brother.
Congratulations on your upcoming 50th birthday and continuing a high level of annoyance over all these years. Unfortunately, there was a point in time where you just got bigger than me and I couldn't kick the shit out of you anymore. So I learned early in life, but that will be a fun birthday party. I will say that. Avis, the executive assistant to us all, the one who fills in every gap, puts her fingers in the dam. Do you have anything that you want to share with us today?
No, just keep up with Bryan so that he doesn't have to make me do some stuff for you.
Okay.
You know, nice, sweet person calling you upset. That's not good. That's not good.
That's fair enough. You'd rather have Avis call than Bryan call.
That's
right.
right. That's
Okay.
right. So when I send something, send it in.
Got it. And I'm assuming, last but not least, and we're closing in on our end of show. Last but not least, well dressed, looking wonderful. That is not an HR worthy complaint that you need to make. That I complimented you. We are back in the Trump world where we can do those things. Looking wonderful. How are you, my dear? And what do you have?
Hey, thanks. Good morning, everybody. I've just got a couple quick things. SHOT Show survey. If you haven't completed it, like Bryan said, please do. We genuinely want to know what you're up to, where you're at. We want to see you guys. So please let us know what you're doing, if you're going to be there. And if you're not going to be there, where can we catch up with you throughout the year? Like I said, we want to see you guys. That's why we're asking. Also, communication. We want to know what you need. Please email us. Please talk to us. If we send you a survey, it's genuinely because we want to know, how can we shape it? What do you need? How can we better serve you? So if you have the time, please, it matters a lot to us. And last but not least, couple things. We are going to have some more educational programming and webinars. We got a great response to those earlier this year, so please be on the lookout. We're engaging other partners. If you have any specific topics that you'd really like to hear about, shoot us an email, let us know. So that's all I have for everybody, and thanks again for another great call.
So to piggyback on that, SHOT is where you want to get a hold of me, and it doesn't have to be on the show floor. In fact, I like to try to avoid getting the SHOT Show influenza. So I like to avoid the show floor. If you want to meet up at any particular time or any particular place, even if it's off campus, I am available. I have literally had a How Do We Conquer the World meeting every year with Trent. Every year. And it's always at the Bellagio. It's never on the show floor, right? Because you're always pulled in different directions and what have you. And the drinks are so much better when you're not on the show floor. So Trent will tell you that I am very keen on meeting, and I won't even stick you with the bill. You guys have been paying me for a long time. I'm happy to pick up the tab. So please put those in your notes to Alexis when you're saying, hey, I'll be at SHOT on Tuesday through Thursday. You got an opening that I could catch up with Chris or anybody. Mike, Alexis, anyone you want to catch up with. With that being said, thank you so much. Our next meeting, I believe, I thought we had a graphic. I saw a graphic somewhere. So October 8th, perhaps? Avis, do you know? Does anybody know? I don't remember.
Bryan came up with, Bryan came up with a day.
October the 6th.
Yeah.
October the 6th. I'm sorry. October the 6th, our next periodic meeting. I look forward to seeing you all there. And those of you who are Californians, I guess I will see you shortly in the next room. Take care, and I'll catch up with you guys next time.